Hey, this is Len Newton, the RVI guy, and I've been helping companies go paperless and automate workflows with real vision imaging software since 1995. Welcome to the RVI Paperless Workplace podcast, where our topics bridge the gap between technology and expectations. So, in today's episode, we will cover what professional services are needed to get your paperless workplace projects up and running. And it's my pleasure to be joined by John Paul Roundtree, who is the Vice President of Real Vision Software. Now, JP has a long, long history working with real vision imaging, and I think that's really a great place to start. So, JP, how were you first introduced to RVI, and how has that led you to where you're at today?
Well, I was first introduced to RVI back in the 90s. I was working at Net Data Corporation, which is a local county government software developer in Texas. And my first job there was to improve what I would call a terrible, terrible homegrown system. It really was. Um, and it was awful. It really was. And we had about 7 customers that were using the product at the time. And I knew that at some point we were going to have to change and go a different direction.
Hmm.
We had recently hired an IBMer, and he had heard of RVI in the past, and it just so happened about around that time that the IBM Business Partner Conference was going to happen in New Orleans. And we knew that RVI was going to be there because we had looked it up in the Expo Center. And so me and the IBM guy went down to New Orleans, and we get there, we go to the Expo Center, and sure enough, we found the RVI booth, and that is when I met Dave Woodring, who was the
Yeah.
vice president at the time. And we kind of hung around the booth for a long time, and his team of people were there. And Lynn, you might have been there that day too. I don't know, but we got some demos. We ended up just hanging out there, and we were convinced at that point that this is the product that we need to be doing. So what ended up happening? They came back to our office back in Texas and did a demo, and the rest of it was a no-brainer. I mean, we decided to convert the 7 accounts over to RVI, and we basically went from a canoe to a spaceship overnight. That's the truth. Uh, we integrated RVI into about 10 of Net Data's software applications, and I was there 19 plus years, and when I left to make the move to RVI, we had around 100 installs all over Texas, and I've been at RVI now 6.5 years, so 25 years in the making here. With RVI installations, upgrades, demos, you name it, I did it, and here I am. I'm still going strong.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, I remember those days, and boy, net data is really the gold standard for what RVI looks for in a partner. They know their software, they do a great job with their software,
Hmm.
and they do a great job interfacing it with our product and really delivering a
Hmm.
great
Yeah,
solution
they
to
do.
the customer base. So
Yep.
they're really great. I can't help but laugh at the fact that what goes around and it goes in a big circle because here you are, your first experience was bumping into Dave Woodring, who was the vice president, and you turn around and you take the man's job away from him. What are you going to do? Uh, for those of you who don't know, Dave Woodring was one of the original founders and has taken a well-deserved retirement and still
Right.
consulting. And he handpicked you for this job, so it's terrific. But it is kind of funny to think back on those days. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, you've worn a lot of different hats with your involvement with RVI, and these days you're doing everything about the with the product, maybe with the exception of software development. So you're involved in all the marketing planning activities, planning for the customer installations, and delivering the services along with the technical support. So you really touch all the different pieces that are going on. But let's get to the big question that we're talking about in this podcast. What is the deal with professional services? I mean, these days with technology, you go to the store, whatever gadget you're going to pick up, laptops, tablets, phones, they don't even come with instructions. You hit the power button, turn them on, and grandma can figure out what to do next with them. And you buy Microsoft Office, you load it on, it walks you through, you're set to go. TurboTax, whatever, you just start keying in your data. It just goes. And so why is it that some assembly is required when it comes to implementing a paperless workplace?
Well, you're right, Lynn. I mean, I'm involved in sales contracts, marketing, and many other duties, in the company. But when it comes to services, most customers are interested in services work that, is related to what they want. It's not an all one size fits. And that. I mean, everybody wants it a little different. I mean, we are really good at customizing customers' needs. Our software has so many features and functions, but used in so many ways. And don't get me wrong, our software works great right out of the box. It really does. But most companies require customization that requires our RVI installers to solve. And I have so much confidence in our RVI installers. I mean, some specialize in certain areas such as banking, transportation, or government, something like that. I mean, but what makes us different is our installers are seasoned and they know processes that a customer needs or know how to solve issues. They just know. And that's why there is some assembly required. That's why.
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're talking there, customers would really probably prefer that everything was standard in the base product, just as long as it was done the way they want it done. So
Right.
which leads to the customization. So obviously,
Yeah.
do-it-yourself dentistry is probably not the best idea. I mean, our customers really know their business, but you often say this. I mean, our installers work across industries. They work with our product every day. They're really experts at what they do, and
Mhm.
um, that's such an integral part of the of implementing the solution. So let's discuss some of the services that it takes to get these customer projects up and running. What's involved in a typical implementation plan? What does that look like? And maybe talk about how long it would take. What's the timetable to get a customer up and running?
Mhm. Well, I mean, that is a good question. And you know this from me. I mean, I always like to have an initial kickoff meeting to discuss a project. I mean, that's just where I like to start. But the RVI installer has to go through certain steps. And we call it next steps when we're on a demo. But um, they will have to confirm, detailed requirements. They're going to look at the RVI, systems and indexing, the user groups, the security. They're going to go through application interface to see what, do we need to interface with a core
Yeah.
business application? Uh, you got capture, do they want to do OCR extraction? I mean, you got workflow, you got approvals, retention, expiration. I mean, and the list goes, it goes on and on and on. And, we're going to identify custom code requirements. I mean, so it's a big step for an RVI installer to step into this. And usually the customer has a good idea of, the areas they need to work at first. I mean, they always know, and I will always bring in the RVI installer to discuss the various options to get the best results. Once both the customer and the installer agree on the project, then we can determine the length of the scope, and based on past installs that were similar to this, usually within a week's time. Well, then we can come up with a scope of work and get that to the customer. I mean, that it usually takes us about a week.
Yeah, and that to me was my big surprise when I first was exposed to RVI, because I was working with some more complex type products that would take much longer than that, and I just couldn't believe
Mhm.
that we could get customers up and running in a week, maybe two
Right.
at the outset. And it's so true. We're doing that all the time, but
Hmm.
you know, uh, sometimes customers are really just looking for a budget number. They can be so pesky when it comes to spending their money. I don't get it. But kidding, obviously. But talk a little bit about how you quote prices. I mean, sometimes customers are just looking for a budget number to kind of figure out where we're going with this, and sometimes they really want to pin it down and get what the actual number is going to
Hmm.
be. How do you
Hmm.
handle that? How do you handle pricing when it comes to services? Because that is the variable portion of the pricing scheme.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, usually, it's based on, I mean, we base a lot of things on past installs because we just know, what we've done in the past to another customer. And a lot of customers that want to come in, we compare them. But, usually we can compare fairly easy to get a quote on what, the potential customer wants to do. I mean, we do send out, what we call, and me and you both do this, budget quotes. And we do that all the time, which gives, a potential customer, a ballpark figure. Um, but really, when you get down to it, I mean, if you really want real numbers, I mean, you got to work through this scope of work that we've
Yeah.
talked about previously. And that's how you get a real, a real scope done and a real price.
And that's right. And I find that the more knowledgeable that our prospects are that haven't done imaging yet, that we talk to, kind of all of a sudden they hadn't thought of some things, and all of a sudden things come into scope that they hadn't really figured was part of it. They may start out with a
Yeah.
simple concept, but when they start to understand all the things they can now do once their documents have gone digital, boy, that can really change the scope of the project. So, uh, you know, we help the customer understand when they're in their evaluation process. Obviously, we provide the skills and the expertise to help get their installations up and running. But
Hmm.
then at some point in time, we're moving from the installation and training portion into tech support, which is yet another area that you
Right.
oversee at Real Vision. And of
Hmm.
course, I've been working with Real Vision imaging software since 1995. And I've got to say, our support team always gets high marks whenever it comes to our customers. And really, that just makes our life so much easier. But talk a little bit, if you would, about where does the installation stop? How do you make that determination where it's done, and now we're moving into the support coverage, and how
Right.
that transition takes place?
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, a great thing about RVI is that when like a new customer first signs up and the project starts, we give them a 3 month, what you and I call in is a warranty period. And in addition to the 12-month uh, annual support, I mean, you know, you really end up in the beginning when we do an install, is you get the 15 months, and so you have that 3 month period there to work with the installer. I mean, they may be doing things like setting up install. They may work with you on simple things. You may have to adjust things or whatever with the installer. And that's kind of what's designed behind that 3 month period. And then once that the 3 months is over, then at that time you will need help if you ever need help. And then you got a fantastic support team that can handle any issues if they arise. I mean, they're really great. And we get rave reviews about our support team, and you'll always be in good hands with them.
Great. Well, okay, JP, it's really been great talking with
Mhm.
you on this pod. We've got, when you're going to go paperless, you're going to need a little bit of hardware, you're going to need a software product, but it's really the secret sauce is really the professional services that take place. But before I close out, do you have any
Mhm.
either wrap up messages for our listeners?
Yes, I do, Lynn. I really do. You know, I have been associated with RVI for a long, long time, and I have the most confidence in the world with our RVI installer team. They're just really, really great, and they will guide you through the process of your custom code, installation, training, etc. And I can tell you this, Real Vision Software is a very caring company, and I am proud to be a part of such a great organization. I really am. It's great. And from the top down, we care for each and every customer. If you are looking for a paperless workplace solution, you're at the right place. There's no doubt about it. And you will not find a better team of people to work with. We will always, always be there for you. So I appreciate it today. Thank you.
All right, with that, JP, I'm going to close us out. Okay.
Mhm.
Real Vision Software, we've got 30 years of document capture, workflow, and integration experience. So, you know what? We've probably heard your story before. We've got thousands of customers from nearly every industry you can imagine that trust RVI to manage millions of documents every single day. So this is Len Knutson and JP Roundtree. We're the RVI guys, and we are all in on your paperwork challenges. If you want to connect with us, just visit our website at www.realvisionsoftware.com, all one word. And you can click the schedule a demo button, put a message in there for us, and one of us will get back to you. We greatly appreciate your interest in our podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, give us a like, post a comment, or share it. Thank you.